This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, it's 6:01 p.m. I'd like to call to order the February 10th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and remotely online to the greatest extent possible. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and the online meeting will not be restarted. All agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Eva, if you have something to add?
No, on the Google Meet, you can put your hand up if you'd like to speak, or unmute and interject. And you can drop me a chat if you're having any technical difficulties.
Thank you.
Public concerns or non-agenda items. So anything that's not on the agenda already. Please go ahead and state your name.
Kathy Wizinski, Overlook Drive. So I was wondering if the Conservation Commission was looking at all at the large battery project that was going into Westfield and the impact that that could potentially have on our, or given that they're looking at placing it on or next to the aquifer. Have you guys heard of that?
Need a large battery?
Large lithium storage facility. Yes.
Okay, no, have not heard of any concerns about that or that the project is taking place. So
Yeah, there's been a number of hearings in Westfield about it,
right.
And it is potentially sitting right on or next to the aquifer.
sure. Okay.
The state is trying to override Westfield's opposition to it
I see.
at the moment. And I think it would be really important for this
Sure.
commission and Easthampton citizens in general to be aware of and decide whether to.
Sure. Is it a private facility that's being built?
I believe it's privately owned,
Okay.
and the purpose of it is to provide storage for nowhere in Western Mass, but somewhere out in the central eastern half of
Okay.
the state. So it's not even benefiting our community.
All right. No, have not heard about that. I don't know if anyone else in the commission has or not. I have.
Let me see if I can find the stuff, and I'll forward it to your joint email.
Forward to Eva.
Yeah,
And then
I'll
she
take a look
can
into
get it
it.
to everyone.
The Texas-based company Jupiter Power.
I can reach out to the Westfield Conservation Agent
Okay.
too. You want to see what's going on.
A number of city councilors are working on for Westfield, we're working on pushing back on it. But again, the state has been sort of putting a lot of pressure on the city and trying to get them to override some.
All right. Interesting. Okay.
And these facilities have the tendency to blow up.
Yeah, I understand the lithium battery problems in the world, but I just wasn't aware that we're doing something like this that close. So,
Yes,
all right. Interesting.
huge,
Yeah,
what I
right.
understand. All right, I'll forward it to you.
Thank
That'd be
you.
great. Thank you, Kathy. There's a raised hand on.
Okay.
Hi, yeah, so our VP of operations, I think he's waiting to be admitted to the meeting.
I don't currently have anyone waiting.
Huh. Yeah, he just texts me and he's like, oh, I'm waiting online, but I'm not sure what to tell you. Okay, I will double check. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes open for it. Thank you.
All right. Our first public hearing is an abbreviated notice of resort area delineation by GCA on behalf of Crown Meadow Corporation at Holly Circle and Crestwood Drive. So we had some proposals for peer review.
We'll go for 385.
That's for 385.
So we've been continuing this to the next meeting. Not sure when our timeline is going to be for the peer review response. Luckily, we have the peer reviewer in the room for a different project.
Yeah.
If you want to give us an earlier, a couple meetings out, we could do, or like even, you know, you don't have to have the meeting that you're gonna come to present to us, just so we don't continue at every meeting would probably be useful.
Yeah, I think with it, I went through all the materials for that. It seems pretty straightforward, the review. It's just, I would like to wait for the snow to be off the ground. So if we get a little thaw, or
Sure,
something,
yeah, definitely.
probably jump on it pretty quickly and get the field work done.
And which project is this?
This is for Crown Meadow, yep, Holly
Okay.
Circle.
Thank you.
It seems unlikely we're gonna have a thaw.
Yeah.
You never know. Most winters are good. This winter is like normal.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
A little bit different, so.
Would you suggest an early April
I think I could probably get it in before then.
before then?
I'm
Okay.
thinking we'll probably do something in March that'll thaw out enough that I can get out there.
Okay, great.
So our first,
Yeah, just.
looks like it's the 7th of April. Do we want to go to? We have the 7th and 28th, is that correct?
Of April. Or the 10th and 24th of March.
Well, if you do the 7th of April, it gives me the month of March, and then it'll take a little bit of time to put together the response letter. If you want to do that, I think I can, chances are that'll work.
All right, so can I get a motion to continue this to April 7th?
Motion to continue the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, Meadow and Holly till April 7th.
Second, there's second. All in favor?
I
Aye. Motion carries. All right, do we want to go to B or do we want to go to 5B?
Let's do 4B next.
4B, okay. So 4B is the public hearing for Berkshire Design Group on behalf of community builders for 385 Main Street, and that's the one that we're going to do the peer review on.
Yes.
So we had 2 people that responded to our quote. And both of them came in within the time frame, right? They came in within the time. Yeah, it said the email said one, but then one came in later. I think the one from was it Zen Engineering was the one that came in later.
This one came in first.
Which one? Bucky Sparkle?
Bucky Sparkles.
Okay.
Yep, and then UPI, and that one did come in under the timeline, but we had a snow day on Thursday, so
Snow
I was
day?
late to update it. I know, very nice.
All right, so Zen Engineer came in first. And GPI came in second, but both came in under the wire, so they're both valid quotes. Take a minute to read through that one.
yeah, that's
GPI one has more people defined in it, so that's a little bit longer of a package.
are we gonna hear from either of them, or are we just?
So we didn't request either of their attendance. We don't typically for the review selection.
Give Sarah a chance to,
Well, you can go ahead.
um,
I can keep while you're.
sure. Did anyone have any concerns with either of the two proposals?
No, no concerns. They both seem responsive to what we asked for.
Now, does it matter that GPI mostly works on the east side of the state? And this engineer works here because our soils are different? Does that matter? You know, as far to take that into consideration.
Your experience looks pretty detailed, so I guess I wouldn't be concerned about that, because they had, a number of people that, looked like they had, great experience.
No, I agree, because the, so GPI has at least 3 project engineers.
Mhm.
One is the lead is a land surveyor, and all 3 are soil evaluators. And one of them has a construction general permit site certificate. So I didn't know if, because his project is so huge and the residents are very concerned about it, if we wanted to go with a larger firm that has more engineers.
Seems like, this company has more depth, right? It's
Yes.
just because they have more people to throw at it. I mean, we've worked with, Bucky in the past on other
Yes.
projects, and, I have confidence in him, but if,
Yes.
there is a concern that, want to have, a bigger team involved. I think both groups can handle the project, so I don't know.
Oh, I agree. I
what
just
other
wasn't
people
sure.
think about it.
I mean, the one in New Hampshire would have a lot more travel time.
Mhm.
And Bucky is familiar with, like, he worked on the project across the street, so he's very familiar with that parcel of land and the surrounding. Well, GPI also says that they're willing to come remotely, which would cut back on travel cost. But like you said, also Bucky has worked on all this in this area, land use, wastewater, septic. He's also a professional engineer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose they can review the stormwater plan from far away. Certainly come to the meetings about it. They will have to come out here at some point,
Right.
look at the land.
Mhm. GPI was a little higher priced. If everyone's looking at the same requirements.
Since I'm just looking at you guys now, other than the cost and the location and number of people on staff, has anyone noticed any other significant differences between the proposals?
I didn't.
Yeah, I thought they're pretty similar.
That summarizes it well.
Yeah.
So I'm confident that either group could handle it. So I guess it's a preference on which direction we want to go with.
Yeah.
Anyone has a strong opinion about,
I always like staying closer to home.
did you have other questions on this, or those are
Oh,
those
these
questions
are-
for me for something else?
No, these are just notes on the 2 different firms.
Okay.
And Bucky doesn't have any reason, we don't have any reason to believe he would have a conflict of interest. He lives in Leeds, not Easthampton, right?
Yeah, he has not disclosed anything, and you know, when he signs a contract with the city, that would be a time when he would have to disclose.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
But he's not in a butter, which is helpful.
right. That's good. That's a,
Right.
I'm sure the abutters would be more interested in whether it's ever done work for the developer,
Right.
in fairness to that.
And the place across the street that he worked on is not in a butter. I can't remember.
I don't know if technically they're in a butter or not.
I mean, the Route 10 is between them and the property, but
Right.
they might have an interest in what happens across the street from them. How that affects his.
Commissioner Carr, what was the parcel that you're referring to?
Is it a storage facility? Do you remember?
We did have a storage facility come up before us.
It's like directly across the street from that parcel. And I remember doing a site visit there.
You think it was Lucky?
Yeah.
Is it the one that's half in Southampton?
Yes.
It's a little further down the road, not during.
Yeah, that's
No,
further
it's
down.
not.
So it's not really in a butter then, right?
Or maybe it was Easthampton Animal Hospital.
Mhm.
I think it was
Yes.
Easthampton Animal Hospital. That's what it.
Was Bucky on that?
Yeah.
Right,
He
okay,
was.
yes. Are they technically in a butter?
Probably not because Route 10 runs down between them, but like the whole culvert that goes under the road and goes along Wampanoag Way. Get involved in that, and that could be a pro or a con, you know, like I
Right.
said, he's very familiar.
But the animal hospital has nothing to do with this,
No.
this project, right?
No,
So
I don't
I
think
think that would be a concern for a professional.
I mean, if there are no concerns, I would also be inclined to go with somebody more local, but
All right.
you know, we know Bucky's work and we trust it.
I agree, and it's about a 20% cost difference.
Yep.
Which I think we need to be cognizant of.
Sure. So does someone want to make a motion here?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are either of these, firms that did the peer review for the Tasty Top project?
No.
No.
Okay.
I guess I would make a motion that we accept the proposal by engineering and initiate a contract with them.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
And
Well, I'm looking at you.
I got face waiting to be called.
The motion carries. So an engineer has been selected
Great.
for the peer review.
So I will reach out to Bucky and let him know that the commission selected his proposal. As we have not received the funds to be held in escrow, as we have not, well, we're not going to receive those funds until we receive the final documents. So this will be kind of a pending project.
Sure, and the final documents would
Our
need
plans
the
are coming-
revised,
The revised
stormwater plan.
and the revised plan set, yes, which we're expecting in early April. So now I think the commission can continue this until that same April 7th meeting.
That was my next. Okay, so I move that we continue this agenda item to the meeting of April 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Motion carries. All right, April 7th at 6 p.m. Now, this is where we want to take, I want to want you to have time to make sure you don't
Yeah.
rush you along too much here, but
So, Steve, I thought we could maybe talk about closing out.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, okay, excellent.
logistical sense.
Logistical sense first, great. So that's
5B.
5B.
So can I get a motion to take 5B out of order?
Okay, I'll move that we take agenda item 5B, Williston Northampton School Original Pond Restoration Project. Next.
Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries. 5B is taken out of order. The CFC for Williston Northampton School on the original pond restoration, which was back in 2006, 2008. Is that correct?
2009.
Yeah,
But
okay,
the COC was not 2009.
right. Okay, so here's,
So part was issued in 2009.
yeah, so what I have up here is the partial certificate of compliance. So just to lay the groundwork a little bit. So this is a ecological restoration herbicide treatments for Williston Pond. And the reason we're taking this out of order is that we have a notice of intent for herbicide treatments and ecological restoration of the same pond. So this is a re-upping of a project that was started in 2007. The commission issued an order of conditions in 2007, and then went through a process of issuing a partial certificate of compliance in 2009. And then I believe actually did issue the full certificate of compliance in 2010, but did so under the wrong DEP file number.
Okay, so that's
So-
why it's still,
Yeah, so up until about 2 hours ago, I believe that there was never a full certificate of compliance issued. And then I was in our files looking for baseline documentation reports, and I came upon one, but it's filed under the wrong DEP file number. Did you come to this
We
conclusion
found
as
that
well?
too when we did some digging in our office, yeah.
Yeah, so I can pull up the wrong one. This is the partial, which the commission, and Jay, I believe you were on the commission at this time.
yes, that's correct.
So I'm not entirely positive what the thinking was around why the partial certificate of compliance was issued at this time.
Too long ago.
Yeah, totally.
I think
So
it might have been something to do with, there was an ongoing condition to allow for the treatment,
Okay,
and that's probably why we did it.
all right.
'Cause I was involved in the original permitting of this back in the
Okay.
day too.
you were, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So does the partial CFC, which we have displayed,
Yeah.
predate or come after the full CFC, which was misfiled?
It predates it. So a partial certificate of compliance was issued in 2009. That's what I have up here. And that one was registered properly at the Registry of Deeds and is like
Right.
Okay,
all where it should be. And then the full certificate of compliance was issued in 2010. I can flash that up on the screen. And that one was issued under a different DEP file number, which is also a Williston file number, but was done
not the right one.
exactly, I believe was for a different project. So this is the one that was issued in 2010. Right here, September 13th, 2010. But this is what I'm a little bit confused about. Maybe you could clarify or Commissioner Ryan, but why? Because there was this, so the ongoing condition of the original NOI and order was that they could continue doing herbicide treatment as an ongoing condition, which I wouldn't recommend is how we permit this next.
Sure.
We can't actually do it anymore. I'll talk about it.
Yeah, great, awesome. So, but I'm a little bit confused. I'm not totally sure why in 2009 it was a partial with the ongoing condition, and then in 2010 it was a full with the ongoing
My only
condition.
thought on it, and I don't remember because there were a lot of different file numbers. The original thing was herbicide treatment, and I believe we dredged the pond too, but I don't know if that was under a different file number.
I think that was under a different file number. I saw that in our
I just didn't know if they were connected, and I got the partial on the dredging, but
right.
yeah, I don't know why we would have got a partial, but then have the continuing agreement unless there was hey, let's do this for a couple of years to make sure everything's okay, to give enough.
Well, it says herbicide treatment and water quality monitoring was conducted and completed, but they wanted continued authorization to conduct dissolved oxygen monitoring and notification and treatment. I don't know how that's different.
And we did that. So now I'm thinking about it. It's probably that this permit was going to expire.
Right.
It was a 3-year permit.
Okay,
So it was get the certificate. I don't know why it was a partial and that's not a full. And then let the ongoing condition be, hey, we're gonna treat it, but we're gonna monitor it. And then there were all the special conditions that were imposed on what that monitoring would look like to allow for that continuing condition to occur.
Right.
But I don't know why.
Yeah.
I didn't file it.
Right, and I believe it was, I'm sure it was a clerical error. So this original order was 151243. And this certificate, which is clearly for the same project, was filed under 151257.
So do we first need to issue the full certificate of compliance before we can address the current situation?
Well, that's what we're thinking. We're thinking we need to close this out before we go back and work on the new one. Otherwise, we're going to have this one hanging, out of sequence.
That is what I'm thinking. What's interesting is, yeah, this one was filed with the Registry of Deeds, but it's just misfiled.
So misfiled.
Was 257 completed?
That's a great question. I did not get into digging into that. I can look into it though. I will say that DP, and we'll get to this in the NOI review, but DP did highlight a couple other Williston projects that don't have COCs. So that can take a look. But I can take a look into that, Commissioner Carr.
I don't know what you're gonna ask for exactly, but it's continue to keep doing what you're doing. Since we didn't really issue a full certificate of compliance, can we go back and change it now? To just say, instead of partial, it's full and you can keep doing it.
So, well, right. So I don't think we can continue authorizing these
Right.
ongoing conditions.
I think we're going to close this one out.
I think we want to completely
Then we
close out
have
this
a new
permit.
NOI to look at, to go forward with.
Yeah, and I do, so the Goddard Consulting did submit, Form 8A, the request for a full certificate of compliance. Pretty standard. So this would be just to close this out.
So let's do that.
I do have the form printed, I think, in that first file. I guess we need a motion.
Yeah, no, I just got, we couldn't find to the top.
It's the top one, yeah. The old file, the old plan is under there. From 2007.
All right, can I get a motion to issue the CFC for Wilson Northampton School? So this is the one that ends in 1501-0243.
So I will move that we issue a final certificate of compliance for 151243 for Williston Northampton pond treatment project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Were there several conditions?
So.
So I'll email you a copy of this, and I can also send you the original, and I think you get it registered. Did you work for Bay State at the time?
I did.
Folder or
Yep.
rather having hands. Okay.
Either way. So I'll scan it into our files. Okay.
In their order. Public hearing for a notice intent, Easthampton School for pond restoration. Map 144 lot 10. It says Mass DE file 1510331.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Steve Liberty, I'm senior ecologist over at Goddard Consulting. I run the Palmer office, so I do all the Western Mass work for us. So yeah, like I said, it's Williston Pond. It's the pond right behind us, diagonally over at Williston School. It was originally dredged in probably 2006-ish, and you know, it's been ongoing herbicide treatment and management ever since then, up until the year before last. I've been involved in lots of the ongoing monitoring and recommending whether the herbicide people come out and treat or not treat, depending on what the pond looks like over those years. You know, pretty much the pond fluctuates year to year. And I think in the original order of conditions that there was a permission for up to 4 treatments a year for herbicides out there. I don't remember a year where they did that much treatment. I think the most they ever did was 3. And mostly it's algae. The algae gets pretty bad there in the summer with the pond being fully exposed, you know, lots of open watershed, lots of urban watershed that goes to it. So you get a lot of nutrients in it, and it just kind of sits in the summer and bakes, and it's still pretty shallow even after dredging. So algae blooms kind of go crazy in the summer pretty quickly, with the morphology of the area and the watershed and everything. But with all the treatment that they've done, it's, you know, mostly been algae treatments that they do every year, usually 1 algae treatment in the summer, sometimes 2. Aquatic plant treatments maybe every other year, depends on how bad. Mostly it's the spatter dock that gets bad on the surface, and maybe some of the ductwork gets really out of control because it just really flush its way through. So in some years they'll treat that. But for most part, it's algae treatments once or twice in the summer to keep the algae under control. Then we haven't seen any changes in oxygen levels or, you know, any bad effects of anything. We've been doing monitoring on it for years, you know, before and after. Some proposed changes to like how we do the monitoring, just based on, you know, what I've seen over like 15 years of this happening out there. But it's just based on what I've seen in the field. If you want to flip to the somewhere there's a bunch of figures that we just GIS figures. One of them just shows the whole planet. And a bunch of like stars, like for the sample. I think that's like a good figure to like a visual of the photo, which kind of tells the story. Probably like right after the Form 3. Yeah, so we've been doing the treatments for probably 15 plus years, since 2006-ish. Like I said, the plant community hasn't changed too much over that time. Most years we're kind of seeing the same things every year. A lot of flat stem pondweed, coontail. You know, it varies in density. You know, some years it just kind of takes off and gets a little out of control, but it's mostly just on the edges in the littoral zone. I think it's really bad. But the high plant density with those really bad algae, or obviously be problems for fish with the oxygen fluctuation issues and whatnot. The schools use several different treatment companies to treat out there. I think it was Solitude for a number of years, and the last several they've been using SWCA to do the treatments. But what had happened last year is I went out to do my normal spring monitoring, or getting SWCA ready to go. I was going to give you guys an email that they were going to treat again. And then DEP came back, not the wetlands DEP, but the ones that issue the pesticide licenses for treatment. They said, oh no, your order of conditions is expired. Okay. So they said, you need a new one. Like, well, we've been doing this for 15 years under continuing order. They said, no, new rule in DEP, you need a valid order of conditions in the story. So you need to refile the NOI. So that's why we're kind of here to kind of restart stuff that they've been doing. So last year was the first year in years that has no treatments. I saw it in the early spring. It was getting bad. I never really saw it later in the summer. If it got really, really nasty or not, but the summer was pretty dry and hot. So I could only imagine what it might have looked like in August. So yeah, that's the proposal, is to kind of continue doing the same thing, you know, very similar monitoring regime, which is what you guys, I think, typically do on most pond projects. I think that's working well out there. I think I reduced the number of monitoring locations just because two of the ones out there never really yielded anything significant. There was
Okay.
nothing ever really growing there. So I kind of shifted the one that was on the outlet end farther into the middle of the lake, and then shifted the other one kind of towards the middle to kind of capture where I see most of the plants out there. And I think give more representative data plots. And still do the dissolved oxygen monitoring like we've been doing out there. One of the other things that the school is doing, I know Mark Stinson had the comments of like, hey, you got to try to do other things besides just perpetually dump chemicals into a lake. We're going to go out this summer. I talked to the school, and I'm going to do another lake evaluation because it hasn't been done in a number of years now. To get a sense of how much infilling is happening. Is there a lot of soft sediment in there that's kind of maybe contributing to this problem? Other than doing the dissolved oxygen readings, which you have to put them on the end of the cord and lower them down. I'm noticing like this part of the pond is supposed to be 8 feet deep, not 8 feet deep anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Hitting bottom a lot sooner. So the pond is definitely infilling over time. So the school wants to go through the process of, hey, maybe we need to clean it out again and get all that accumulated organic matter out of the bottom of the pond and kind of maybe clear up the water quality in that sense. As part of that assessment, I'm going to look at the whole thing and what the school does, and do they use chemicals on the land, and give some recommendations of things they can do to be more holistic about the whole process.
So you don't know if they use chemicals on the land?
I'm sure they use something, but I mean, that whole field there is turf. So that's, fake turf, not real turf. So there's not that whole playing field there is like treated with fertilizers or anything. Around the edge of the pond is kind of naturalized lawn. There is lots of geese out there. So I'm sure that's not helping the situation.
Sure.
Do any streams with like farm runoff run into that pond?
I haven't done a whole more recent watershed analysis, but the watershed to this is pretty large. I mean, this is only 1 or 2 ponds away from Nashwanik, so it's got almost everything up gradient to it. But there's a lot of things that might be contributing to this that are probably outside of their control. It's either town control or other landowners. It would probably be more of a kind of some kind of educational program with the community to try to the things you see around, put the little fish symbol by the storm drain, so you're not pouring things into the storm drains and chemicals on your lawns, and trying to get people to use less fertilizers. That's all the stuff that really makes a big difference in this.
A naive and newbie question for me, but the previous graphic suggested that there was a source stream from the left.
Oh yeah,
Is the net flow of water from this pond into Nashwanik?
Yeah,
Or is the
Nashwanik.
net flow from Nashwanik?
Oh, this goes into Nashwanik. Yeah,
Okay.
so the stream is on the left-hand side, on the other side of the road. It comes in.
Okay.
And then there's a kind of a culvert on the other side that goes out. But the way the culvert's situated, the water just kind of sits in here like a bathtub. And that's why you get a lot of accumulation of that floating plant matter. It doesn't really have anywhere to go. I think it's the old rail line or whatever that bike path is there, kind of.
It's the rail trail.
The rail trail, yes.
It's hard for stuff to naturally move out of the water body. So you get that accumulation of just organic matter just over time.
Do they remove when you do the herbicide treatments, do they remove the dead plants?
No, it just sinks down to the bottom and accumulates, goes into the organic matter at the bottom. So it gets kind of, in a way, immobilized in a way, but it's still there, right? It's still in the system. And they don't treat it all at the same time too. I know people ask that. They don't just go, let's kill the whole pond at the same time. And can obviously mess up the dissolved oxygen cycle. So they usually treat it in like 2 or 3 passes where they'll do a little bit of a treatment, let those plants die, so everything's not dying and decomposing at the same time.
Could they remove it?
Once it's dead, it's hard because it's algae, so it's not like big chunky plant matter that they can get out. And they could hydro rake it, but with DEP's new hydro raking, I don't know if I call it a policy, but they're essentially calling hydro raking dredging at this point. So anytime that you want to just take plants out, you need a 401 permit and sediment sampling, and it turns into a extremely expensive endeavor, which is unfortunate because sometimes hydro raking is a very nice, easy thing to do that you don't need to use chemicals and you can just get the plants out. But it's not really a rooted aquatic plant problem other than maybe some of the water lilies, which they probably could just cut them off, take them out. It's the floating algae. That's probably the worst out there for biomass.
So this is Wilton Brook, Commissioner Weeks,
Wilton Brook,
that flows in, and then this is Wilson Pond, and then it's this.
Nashawanack.
Yeah, this is Rubber Thread, the
Rubber
one,
Thread,
and
okay.
then Nashawanack. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So do you already know what herbicides that you would like to use?
I think they typically use different things every year. I don't know exactly what they use. I want to say they mostly use copper-based herbicides for the algae. That's the standard treatment for algae, and glyphosate as a surface spray for the floating plants. It's more of a contact herbicide, so they'll put a surfactant in it, and it'll just stay on the leaf of smatter dock or the floating lilies, and it'll just kind of absorb the air and get it. Right? And they usually use that for the submerged stuff. There hasn't been milfoil out here that I've ever seen, or any quantities that they needed to treat it, and that's usually what they would use something like diquat for. But I could check with SWCA to see what they have been using in the past. I think in the original order of conditions there were specific herbicides that were permitted, if I remember right, in a while.
I think NOI says glyphosate in the award.
Yeah,
The diclot.
I think they just want to have the options if different things come up that they like, okay, they always do it targeted based. Certain things are easier to target with certain chemicals, and it's getting better now. There's certain things that this chemical at this dosage will affect this plant, but not other plants. So they're usually good with diclot and the milfoil. There's certain dosing that they can do with that to only target milfoil and leave other native stuff untouched.
In the package, there are some data sheets for some.
Yeah, I just put the standard ones.
Standard ones, right?
Yeah.
If you want to look at those data sheets that are in here.
I have the 2007 NOI pulled up that Steve was mentioning. These were the ones that they.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So are there other aquatic plants in there that are not invasive?
They're not invasive?
That are not invasive.
Yeah, there are, like the coontail that I mentioned, Boston pondweed, those aren't invasive. I mean, they can grow to problematic levels, like anything might not be invasive, but it might be a problem if it gets too much. But I've never really seen the submerged aquatic plants get to like really problematic levels, but they kind of keep up with it at the same time too. So it's not like they let it go 4 years and then, oh my God, now we have to do something with the pond. It's out of control. They're constantly doing like a little bit every year to kind of keep it under control. I think it's how it's kind of mostly been managed. And if it's a year that I haven't seen there's not many plants out there, the aquatic plants aren't a problem. I just tell them, you don't even need to spend your money on treating aquatic invasives or plants. There's really nothing. There's not much growing there this year. It's, pretty normal amount of cover. And usually those are the years that the algae is kind of out of control because there's less other plants to take those nutrients out of the water. So the algae just has free reign to just go crazy.
Were there any special conditions on the original NOI that we want to put on this
I think we
NOI?
had monitoring.
Just the monitoring.
Yeah, and I'm other than me changing some of the locations, I think
Sure.
we were proposing the same exact monitoring
Okay.
that we did before.
What about, you mentioned though, there might at some point, you're gonna look at it and see about dredging.
Yeah, so this summer I'll go out and start my initial investigation of it, and I'll make a recommendation, maybe by the end of the year. But then the school will have to appropriate money for whatever the plan is going to be. So that might still take another year or two. So if this is a 3-year, 5-year order of conditions, we're not gonna. That'll probably be around the time that we're figuring out. Okay, here's what the next step might be.
So would that be a different NOI?
Oh yeah,
That's a whole different.
No, yeah.
But I think you're asking for 5 and maybe we should make it 3 just to move them along in their process. And because if it needs to be dredged and we keep putting herbicide on it, it just adds to the organic matter that doesn't like great.
Wilson's pretty proactive with
Yeah.
things, We can consider that.
to take a look at, Mark Simpson, DEP did have an opportunity to provide some comments.
Okay.
Okay.
What used to happen there is, they dredged a waterway across the street from Park Street to the left, as we were looking at that map. And they would take the, fill out of there, and then the sediment wouldn't come through.
Oh, they made a forebay on the other side of the road.
Right.
Yeah.
And Easthampton used to dredge that
Yeah.
pretty regularly to keep Wilson Pond from being filled up with sediment.
How long ago do you think was the last time they did that?
Oh, probably 60 or 75 years ago.
Yeah. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, just can't.
They used to have the in-stream forebays, like that used to be a thing, and now they don't let you do that. But yeah, that is the ultimate solution. You stop it from getting it.
Well, pond progression is those ponds will fill all in.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's why, I mean, I'm seeing it now just with just the limited probing I'm doing. I want to say I've probably lost 2 feet at least on the bottom, maybe the deepest spots in the last like 15 years, which is normal. It's probably a lot of road sand and big watershed, and, material just gets in there.
Just want to see if there's any other questions from the commission or
Okay.
go ahead.
So, I wanted to ask, when you do this, how does it affect the
The what?
wildlife?
Oh, the chemicals themselves don't really affect it. It's more if you don't do it, the fluctuation of the density of the plants and the algae outcompete the space for the living things in there, the snails and the fish and stuff like that. And you're just gonna get less habitat diversity in the pond by keeping the pond more diverse, like getting rid of the algae, which is a problem in and of itself, but keeping a mixture of some plants and some open water, and that increases the diversity. So you get a different variety of fish, and they have areas for nesting, they have areas for cover, they have areas for forage. And once it turns into a monoculture of whatever, then it becomes less useful for whatever's in there. I mean, granted, there's not that much living in there. It's a warm water fishery that's fairly shallow. It's mostly bluegills, but and wherever waterfowl want to make
So
use
if you
of it.
do certain areas each time, that it helps what is living in there, the dragonflies, the frogs, okay.
Yeah, the whole point is to just take the pond and kill everything that's green out there and then turn it to no. That's not good for the system either. Usually the system will rebound from that even in a worse way. But yeah, I've never seen any drop off in plant numbers, even when they do treat. Get rid of some of the surface plants that are causing a lot of the floating issues, and a lot of those are invasive. But just doing the subsurface monitoring of the aquatics, I haven't seen any drastic changes in the aquatic communities from what they've been doing out there. Like the same 15, 20, 25% plant cover in most of the plots. That pretty much holds throughout the summer, even through when they are treating.
Well, I had another question about the equipment that's going to be used on site, but that might be part of the plans.
Mostly they just use a little boat and then they just spray the chemicals off the back of the boat.
So there's no heavy equipment or anything around the edges.
No real equipment.
I had 2 questions. One is whether, I don't know if you can speak to the balance of the decrease in dissolved oxygen with the presence of the eutrophication that's happening versus the dissolved oxygen that gets lost in breaking down the dead matter after the treatment.
That's why that's one of the reasons they don't treat at all at the same time, because then you would have that shock to the system where everything's going anaerobic right away and wanting to decompose everything that's in the lake. So they kill some of the plants and let that start to decompose. So there's still a buffer with a larger pond to be able
So there's more dissolved oxygen after this treatment than
less fluctuation of dissolved oxygen. So with the high algae, during the day when the sun's out, the dissolved oxygen could be super saturation. It could be over 100% because there's just so much plants just producing oxygen. There's algae everywhere. But then at night, when the sun stops, all those plants, people just think, oh, plants, they just, make oxygen all the time. That's what they do. But when there's no sun, they use oxygen.
Right.
So at night, like the oxygen is like way too much oxygen in the day, no oxygen at night. And that's how you get those fish kills from that cycle of extremes. By getting rid of the algae or the excessive plants, you kind of like moderate things so it kind of stays at, 8 parts per million dissolved oxygen. That's like usually a good number for fish.
Is that one of the things you monitor for dissolve?
Yeah, that's one of the things so we monitor probably a week before they treat just to say, hey, the pond's in good condition. It can take a treatment. It's not already going in oxygen.
Right.
And the treatment people are required on their treatment license to be checking that the day of when they're treating it and right after.
And my second question, I know AquaPro is supposed to be used on surface vegetation, not underwater vegetation, but then that surface vegetation then dies and goes under.
It does, yeah.
Does that end up poisoning the underwater wildlife?
The AquaPro in the plant.
AquaPro.
I don't know that much about AquaPro, but it's supposed to be used on the surface, so it is. And obviously the plant goes in and dies. But what I know, most of those things have extremely short lifespans. Like they don't last very long in the environment. They get broken down pretty quickly. I mean, if that's something you want me to look into, I can call the treatment people and find out more about AquaPro. I don't really know the technical answer to your question, but I would say no, since it's EPA approved and approved in mass, so it's under the whatever the like management practice of guidelines.
Obviously, you have information from Mark Stinson.
Yeah, so we have Mark Stinson's comment letter up here, and we have Goddard Consulting's response to it,
Okay.
so we can review that
Sure.
afterwards. Give the commission a chance to read this. I think something that hasn't really been iterated yet is that this NOI has been submitted as an ecological restoration limited project,
Okay.
which is a kind of NOI that wasn't around when this project was initially permitted and wasn't even around. So the other projects similar to this that the commission has permitted somewhat recently or extended was ongoing treatments at Nashawanek Pond.
Sure.
But when that original NOI was filed, this wasn't a category yet
All right.
either. So the commission has done ecological restoration limited projects, but hasn't done one for pond management before. So there's a couple particular things that I think Mark gets at here, which is that the qualifications of an ecological restoration limited project, that its primary purpose is to, restore capacity of a resource area to protect and sustain the interests of the act, and that it's been degraded by anthropogenic influences. By anthropogenic influences. So that's one piece of it, that there's like that two-side of it, that it's going to increase the capacity of the resource area to meet the interests of the act, and that the current status was caused.
Okay.
And then the other piece that I think Mark really gets at is, as Steve already mentioned, a desire for this to be part of a larger lake management plan
Okay.
than what is currently included in this NOI.
Was he trying to say that it did was he making a comment on whether it did or didn't meet the qualifications for the restoration? Or he's just restating what they are?
He's just commenting. Every lake and pond project, I feel like at these standards.
Okay.
And so with the verbiage about, saying this should be part of a larger lake management plan, is the underlying hint that this project should be conceptually merged with Nashawanek?
I'm not sure he would go that far. That's
You
a good.
can't merge two other like outside things, but I think he's trying to think, the school can only control what the school controls, right? With the watershed to that pond being much more than the school can control.
Right.
So probably thinks that there's like a bigger Nashawanek management plan that is taking in other actions for the city, like improving stormwater management systems and all that kind of stuff. That will naturally improve this, because the Nashawanek plan, I haven't read it but assuming it includes all the tributaries to it, which
Right.
is
Shoot, this is one of them.
Williston Pond, yeah.
Right. I did speak with him on the phone briefly. And I'm not sure he was necessarily thinking like this should be
Okay.
part of a larger, though I'm sure he would appreciate that. I think he did mean kind of like Steve already addressed that Williston should be thinking broader about their impacts to the surrounding region. Can they change fertilizer usage? Can they change, any other actions that are those anthropogenic influences that are causing the problem? Or are we gonna take on a project to improve the capacity of the resource area to meet the interests of the act that has been degraded by anthropogenic influences without actually stopping any of the anthropogenic influences? There's a little bit of a, so I believe that's what he's addressing.
All right.
And he also, I think in 5 suggests more thorough water quality condition monitoring.
And that's up to you guys. Most ponds I've dealt with don't do this they usually do this level of assessment on their initial, like, hey, let me do a lake and pond assessment and see what's going on here. I think he's implying here that, like, why don't you just do this all the time? But that's a lot of sampling and sending things to a lab when you kind of need short-term data. Like some of those tests you do aren't field tests, so you could just figure out. We need to ship them to a lab and have them done and get the results like, I don't know, a couple weeks later.
I think that's the same thing that when we asked about Nashwanik, we got the same.
When has this slate been done when was it last done for Williston Pond?
Probably in 2006, but that's one of the things I'll be when I'm running my scope to the school doing stuff this summer. I'd probably propose another round of this. That kind of goes around along with dredging to kind of figure out what the pond is doing now. And since we have a baseline data, and I think I'm sure they have it in their files, whatever we did at Bay State back in the day, we can use it as some kind of basis for comparison.
And then the other comments were primarily clerical. One of these, I believe, 286, I actually did locate the COC for him.
Okay.
Sent that his way. And I now have another one to take a look to see 151, 257. But the other one, I don't know if the commission ever issued a COC.
All right.
But it was not related to the pond. It's just a different Williston project.
If, I guess, a notice of intent. If we make what would we end up making in terms of a determination?
Well, we make conditions of monitoring as part of the conditions of the NOI, right? Is there anything else that we want to have as a condition?
I guess that's what I'm asking is, would we want to make like some kind of larger plan within 3 years, one of the conditions, order conditions?
I don't know if we can really make that part of a condition of this.
I don't know, could you?
Yeah,
Like a requirement of
Like it would be required to have that plan before
requesting a
certificate can be issued for this one. My only hesitation is what if it takes more than 3 years? I just don't know the school's budgeting.
You could get an extension on this
Yeah,
project.
that's true.
Well, do we want to make it 3 years or let it go for the 5 years and still have that be a condition that we want to have some kind of, plan going forward after 5 years? Or recommendation for a plan? I don't know how to word it exactly.
I think the sooner the better. I mean, whatever anthropogenic influences are happening, 5 years is a lot
All right, so
more.
we want to stay with 3 years then?
Do we even do 5 years?
But
we
Nashwanik
always
Pond
did 3
has a
years.
You
5-year.
can request 5 years, but yeah, by default it's 3.
So we could do 3 and then if they need it, an extension.
Extension.
Yeah, so maybe in 3 we come back and we're at where we're at. I can't predict where
Sure.
it's going to be at that point.
I just had a question. What was the area that they used those onion bags of barley straw?
That was in Nashwauk.
That was in
Nashwauk.
Nashwauk, and it was,
And it was
what
in the
was the
park.
breakdown which, inhibited the growth of
The cyanobacteria.
cyanobacteria. It wasn't
Oh,
through algae, it
it was an
It was the poisonous bacteria to animals and things like that.
and Williston Pond doesn't have that.
I was about to say, so I had heard from the school that they found it in, I don't know if it was a pond up gradient or in the stream up gradient, but they were worried about it getting into the
Sure.
lake. And they didn't detect it, or the treatment people didn't detect it when they were thinking you have to use a microscope. I don't think it's like a visible thing. I think it's that red algae.
So the steering committee had come before us and they were using onion mix and putting barley straw in it
Yeah, I've heard about
and
that.
posting it throughout.
For people not to pull them out of the lake thinking they're trash.
Yeah.
Because they look kind of odd.
And it helped pull it out. So I didn't know if you knew about that.
It must act like
the decomposing straw releases a chemical which
Sure.
inhibits the cyanobacteria.
Yes,
But cyanobacteria has not been detected. And
not that I know, but we haven't done.
But it was in the Nashwauk.
I think it's in Rubberthorpe too.
It
I
could
think
be,
it's right there. I don't know.
That's what West from the school told me, that they were worried about it. But they had,
Cyanobacteria algae.
It's a
They
different,
used to be called blue-green algae, and with advances in genetics and understanding, it's now realized to be a completely different.
it's not the algae that's there. What's there is filamentous algae.
so you'll let us know what your findings are. You send that. Yeah.
and we have that data from, I can pull up. Cassie has it from,
I'm just curious from the last time you did it till now, what the differences are.
Yeah, I mean, as a part of my assessment to the school, if I could dig up the original data, yeah, I'll have a comparison to see how it changed.
Steve, I was wondering if you could check on those, on the time of that dredging, because I misspoke when I said 75 years. I don't know how long it's been.
Yeah, the pond itself was dredged more recently in the early 2000s. But that, like, as for the DPW, maybe like mucking out the forebay going into it, I don't know how often that was done or when.
Right.
They might not even have records for it. It might have just been an excavator going down and scooping out some muck every summer just to do it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Could you find out?
Possibly, I could like interview some people at DPW to see what they were doing. Anything that old of a vintage wouldn't have been done under the permit. It would have just been done to do it.
Nobody in the DPW's been there that long.
Yeah.
Unless you can reference.
Possibly. For somebody, yeah, there's probably some old timer in town that was, oh yeah, I was the one that did that.
Yeah.
I remember doing that every summer. It was
so
fun.
this is I think as I eventually work towards drafting an order of conditions for this project, like this is a pretty different order than our sort of standard order, right? We can start with Nashwauk Pond as the order to take a look at.
Do we want to have
Look at
Julie
those conditions.
have
Yeah.
a shot at taking a look at this too?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so.
But that would be a good template to start from.
Right, we can start looking there. Yep.
Yeah,
Does the
I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. I was thinking of some RDA. I was asking about determination, but
Does the commission have any concerns on this ecological restoration limited project on the jurisdiction of that?
Given the comments that you shared with us earlier, nothing triggers to me.
We good with that?
especially with that condition that we talked about.
The condition of a lake management plan within a number.
Is it within
3 years.
3 years or extension? Yeah. Do you have concerns? Are you trying to hit?
No. I just, yeah, I mean, I think, I guess the question maybe I do have for you, Steve, is the interest of the act. I think habitat is the
Yeah, and
obvious
that's the whole
one.
thing, we're getting rid of invasive and improving habitat as the improvement, and I think it's obvious that it's coming from anthropogenic sources.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, you could talk about what they are, but
Right. A more detailed summary of the anthropogenic influences would be part of that lake management plan.
yeah, oh yeah, that's part of it, we'd be assessing beyond what I just myopically been looking at the ponds for a couple of years now. Would be to take a more of a holistic watershed look at it.
And I will say so for in 1053, which is this ecological restoration limited project, under the other restoration projects, the removal of aquatic nuisance vegetation to retard pond and lake eutrophication. It's one of the pieces.
That's what we're doing. Yep.
I have a question on, so you're spraying them and they die and go in, or are you pulling any of them? Is there anything that's coming actually out?
No, they just get sprayed and die there. If we pull them out, you pick them off the surface, it's no big deal. You can do that. But if you start pulling them out from the roots, it's considered hydro raking. And DEP wants a whole separate slew of permits for that. Because in theory, when you pull the root of the plant out, this is the DEP's logic, you're getting some sediment tied to that root. They were calling that bit of sediment dredging, even though you're really just taking the plant out of the water. But there's little bits of stuff attached to the root. And their concern is, well, what if there's like contamination in the sediment, like, hydrocarbons or whatever, PCBs, and then you take that vegetation, you have a big pile of it on the shore, and then you take it somewhere else. And then now they have a problem with contamination because you never tested that soil for whatever. So it's a new kind of regime at DEP that's looking at any pond management project. They've been doing it the same way, just hydro raking for years and years and years. This is what they do. And they're like, wait, I've got to do $20,000 in permitting and testing just to take my plants and put them on the shore and let them desiccate and use them as fertilizer like they've been doing forever. But I understand DEP's logic behind it too. Some of these water bodies, probably do have contamination in it.
Right.
You don't know until you test it.
Do any of those invasives, if you, like Japanese knotweed, if you cut it, it'll spread. Even though these are invasives that are underwater, if you did pull it and break it, do they spread?
These here, no, because the invasive here are more the floating ones, like the water lilies and the chatterbox. But if this pond had milfoil, which it doesn't, I haven't seen milfoil in there. Like that milfoil can spread through like little bits that float around.
Right.
Like that's why they have all the things on the lakes though, not using your boats
and moving your boat to another location.
Bits get stuck in the bilge water of the boat, and then the motor gets spread from lake to lake.
So I don't know. I mean, this is a very similar project to the one that was already in place before, but we want to have Julie take a look at it just because it's a little bit different and get her opinion on it. Is that a valid thing, or are we comfortable enough to go forward with it? That's what I don't know.
Do you think she'd have any questions about the herbicides?
Probably not. I'm guessing not, just because they're the standard treatments.
Are you anticipating that she'd have other questions?
They don't know. That's why we're,
I mean-
it's a little bit different. It's very, very the same in many regards of the treatment, but then it just seems a little bit different.
And just it's jurisdictionally a little different.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really dealt with before, so I certainly don't.
How is it jurisdictional?
Just this ecological restoration limited project piece of it. This like new class of project under the Wetlands Protection Act. I watched I reviewed a commission's meeting from earlier in 2024 where you reviewed the Dodge property on
Yeah.
Street. Yeah, that was, and I recall I saw Julie have a lot of, Commissioner Busa have some questions about that particular the ecological restoration limited project. That was a more complicated, I think that was a more complicated jurisdictionally under that
Yeah.
label.
the resource areas were confusing, and then there was like a break in the stream.
Right.
A quick question, if I may. Your work plan for this wouldn't kick into gear until sometime this spring.
Summer. Yeah, we've all the treatment. I don't think we've ever treated anything.
So with that answer, being the cautious and scaredy cat type of person I am, I say we give Julie a look.
Okay.
Just, and she can say, and then she can direct us, don't bother me with this. In that
Right,
case,
that's fine, that's fine.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Are there any other questions from members of the public on this NOI? Okay. So do we want to continue this to our next meeting on February 24th?
I will not be here just in case you guys need me here then.
Okay.
On vacation that week.
You can direct any questions to you via email and then,
Again, if it doesn't get solved at that meeting,
But then again.
right, it's not going to affect your treatment schedule, right?
No, right. Yeah, I mean, they don't, I mean, if we had this a month before we needed to treat, that's fine.
Okay.
and also try to have some draft conditions that the commission we can begin reviewing conditions at that commission meeting as well.
Right.
So we could probably dispense with it quickly on the 24th.
All right.
Motion to continue to the 24th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we are continuing, February 24th at 6 p.m.
Thank you for answering all those questions.
You guys want, do you want the green cards at all?
Sure, I'll keep them in the file, thank you.
You just litter my office.
Yeah,
There you go.
excellent.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
You too.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'll send this off. I mean, Julie has it already, but if he has any initial thoughts before next
Okay.
meeting so that we could get them to Steve,
Sure. Yep.
triangulate that. Dan as well.
Jump over there.
Who's there?
Set.
How's that?
All right. So our next item is another request for certificates of compliance. This is for Easthampton Park Solar One LLC at 232 Park Street. Mass DEP file 1501293. This is for the solar project. Now we're waiting for a few things that we received, correct?
We have received the O&M plan. I believe there are some members of this team to speak to it. Maybe someone from YSP could reintroduce us to this request for a certificate of compliance. Because it has been since July, I think, since the commission last discussed it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
This is Kendra Salzer with WSP. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, so we're requesting the certificate of compliance for this solar array at 232 Park Street in the Easthampton. This was a solar voltaic energy system with 2 arrays. It was an approximately 11-acre development, which had the construction of the solar array panels and racking, a maintenance vehicle access roads, electrical transformers mounted on concrete pads, underground electric conduit, and a perimeter security fence. And there were 6 stormwater infiltration basins and 1 wetland replication area. So we applied for an extension, several extension permits, and they were extended until November 2025. The construction of the solar array was completed in June of 2020, and the wetland replication area Construction was completed in November 2020. And the wetlands replication area was monitored in November 2023 and June of 2024. Sorry, did someone have a question?
Nope, I think you're good.
Okay. And I believe what was discussed last time in July was concern over the mowing of the stormwater basins and just the area, and then also invasive species monitoring. So Soltage has contracted with VHB, and they have an invasive species management plan. So that the plan for that is to VHB is going to survey the site 3 times a year. Yes, exactly. Great. Thank you. During the same time that they're also going to be mowing the site. And they're going to survey for invasive species, and then Soltage will take care of any of the invasive species that they find. And those are anticipated for spring and summer and fall. So that's just a general overview, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have.
So Cassie did do the post-construction site visit, I think with Commissioner Weeks. Anyone was
I had one.
awesome in July. And I believe our city engineer, Diane, was also present, or perhaps present at a different site visit around the same time period. And she gave her approval to the drainage system. And her only note was about the mowing of that the mowing should be part of a regular O&M plan. And we could re-review Cassie's images from the post-construction site visit. I think we can review the rest. I don't, since I wasn't present for the commission yet, I'm not sure how deeply you reviewed the request for a certificate of compliance back in July. If the commission was satisfied with the replication reports and the as-built and all of those pieces of it, or if we want to.
My admittedly thin recollection is that really the only concerns that were discussed at the time was the mowing of these basins.
Right. I believe that it's the O&M plan was the missing piece of the puzzle here. Because the replication was done, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds right to me too. Invasive species.
Same thing here, right?
Yeah, these are so this is one from 2023. This one from 2024 in here too.
Kendra, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
It doesn't, maybe I'm trying to read it quickly, so I might have missed it, but I don't see in the invasive species plan in the O&M that it mentions treating them, just monitoring and surveying for them. But did you just say that they were going to treat them? Or did I misunderstand you?
Yes, I believe, and Soltage might be able to speak to this a little bit too. I believe VHB will be the ones who are doing the invasive species monitoring, and then they'll flag and GPS those locations, and then Soltage will be the ones who actually treat if any treatment is needed.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what you said that I missed. All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, this is Howard Gao from Soltage. So VHB is going to be our vendor, and our O&M contractor will manage VHB to do the invasive species monitoring on the time while our O&M do our mowing. So when if VHB found out if there's any invasive species in the area, they will use the flag and also the GPS system to map them on the map, and then they will hand over to our O&M vegetation management team. And then if those species were found, our O&M management team would remove those species.
Okay.
That was what they're going to be doing to remove the invasives.
Did I read something
I'm
that,
sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Can you tell us how they will be removing the invasives? What will they be using?
did I read something that backpack sprayers were going to be used to?
Yeah, I think the question is it hand, will they be hand pulled or will there be herbicide treatment to remove the invasives? Is that?
There will be herbicide treatment to remove the species.
So do we need to know what they're using for
It
herbicides?
doesn't say in that
No.
article, right?
Can you identify what they will be using?
Probably depends on the invasive species.
When the 2024 report, it said there was multiflora rose
That's correct.
and autumn olive.
Yes, that's another one.
Wonder if we're having trouble hearing, maybe. Is our sound audible to the audience?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
It depends. It could be 3 years. It could
Ava, what company owns the solar array?
I've been a little lost in the sauce with how many different companies are involved with this project. What company owns it?
Sorry, what was the question?
I believe, well, it's owned by, it is its own LLC. Easthampton Park Solar LLC. And Soltage is involved, and YSP is involved, and VHP is involved.
Is it Crown?
Yeah, so Saltish owns the company. WSP is the contact that we have, the contractor we have, and we have the O&M company which is managing BHB, which are the ones finding the invasive species.
They're finding them, and then Soltage is treating them as the
Yes.
property owners.
Yes.
Yes.
And can they let us know what they'll be using to treat and remove the invasives?
Did you hear that question, Commissioner August?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the name.
So I checked a conversation with our OM partner. They said that if the invasive species were found, they will provide us a quote for additional herbicide spot treatment that could be performed as a non-cover service. So they didn't mention what kind of herbicide treatment they will apply. I can go back and ask our OMM partner, and then we can provide that to you guys.
There is an additional partner, huh? So Soltage, so VHB will identify the invasive species, tell Soltage, and then Soltage will contract with someone else.
No, that's not the idea. No. So we have our O&M contractor, and they're the ones managing VHB because our O&M contractor doesn't do invasive species. They don't. So we have to find somebody else to do it. So our O&M contractors are the ones that are having conversations with VHB, and then, whatever quote or something we get it from our O&M contractors.
Okay.
So can they let us know what herbicides they will be using?
Or if
Or
they're
the
looking to
brands?
close this out, would we want I mean, this says through 2029. I don't know if we want a in perpetuity condition that says you will continue to monitor and use wetland approved herbicides for treatment of whatever invasive species that are found. Because what happens after 2029?
So yeah, the issue of using the perpetuity word in the contract is because our O&M partner is not too confident that like after 5 years, the VHB is still gonna be interested in doing this work. So normally we'll do a 3 to 5 year contract with the vendor. And after 5 years, if they're still interested in contracting this work, we will discuss a contract renewal with them. And yeah, that's the reason why we only have a 5 year contract for now. And then in terms of what kind of herbicide treatment we're going to use, I'll get back to our O&M partner, and then I'll follow up with you guys once we hear back.
But if it were an in perpetuity condition, wouldn't it be transferable from contract to contract? It wouldn't matter who is providing the service.
I'm not sure we issue perpetuity ones. We usually do it for a time frame,
Okay.
3 years or 5 years, because it,
Okay.
just to have it be somewhat realistic, but
Is that, I was just looking, I was just gonna take a look at, like, I thought maybe
Yeah.
the school could be a good,
right, see
so
what language.
what language you use, yeah. I mean, typically so I'm seeing that we invoke conditions, the in perpetuity conditions that were part of the original order. So let's go back to the original order and look at what the in perpetuity conditions were for this one.
This is where they have questions.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
look it up.
no, I understand.
And while you're looking it up, may I ask a question? So of the team from the company, I had asked previously what was going to be used to clean the solar panels. And at the time, there was not any clarity on that. So I was wondering if you knew what the plan was and the schedule was for cleaning the solar panels themselves and what was going to be used.
In terms of module cleaning and module washing, I'm not sure if that's required, but we haven't really done any module cleaning and washing. And the reason is because we haven't been notified by our O&M partner that the module was dirty enough to do a module washing. But if such action is needed, our O&M partner has the in-house module cleaning team that will perform this work for us.
It seems like if the point of having all of this in the O&M plan is so that the wetlands get protected no matter who the contractor or the owner is. Isn't that kind of the point
Right,
of having the O&M plan that
yeah.
addresses that?
Yeah, and one of the in perpetuity conditions of the original order, which is usually what we reference in the
Right.
certificate of compliance, is this non-native invasive species monitoring and management, continued monitoring and management of non-native and or invasive plant species on site to prevent the spread of non-native and or invasive plant species within the project area, including but not limited to the stormwater basin. This condition shall survive the expiration of this order and shall be included as
That was on the original.
right. So that does make sense to me that we would want the O&M plan to reflect the in perpetuity
That's
condition,
correct. Yes, yes. We had it on that. We need to continue with that.
which it doesn't currently, as Commissioner Carr pointed out.
Okay.
It currently is a,
Well, and also like the cleaning of the solar panels would also use a cleaner that is not gonna.
right, and the cleaning of the solar panels was not within the jurisdiction of the commission, so it's not part of our order, right?
I would assume it would be problematic though if they use some chemical that damaged wetlands.
Yeah, but it's not part of the order of conditions that was written in.
You're right. It didn't come up. Do we know what the cleaning solution would be if it was used?
No, because they haven't hired anybody to do it yet, because it hasn't needed to be cleaned. He just said.
But if their own people do it?
I think that Howard just explained that a second ago. Like he just said that the panels didn't need like to be cleaned yet. And that's why we didn't have that in our contract with the O&M, but they still offered the service. But we had the project open since like 5 years at this point, of 4 years. So the panels are fine now. So we will not be using anything at this point.
Yeah.
And again, that's not part of the agenda today. What we're trying to, like we have these contractors from BHB, and I know this, we're trying to have this in the long run, but we can just revisit in 5 years in case we have to change the I don't know, the contractors that we have. It was very tough for us to find a contractor who actually managed invasive species. So we were looking for months until we finally find this company who were available and they wanted to work with our O&M contractors. So put that together was pretty tough too. So if we can just revisit in 5 years and try to, maybe we can just renew the contract. Like our intention is not to do it. It's just we didn't find a contractor who wanted to do this with a specific period of time.
Right. That makes sense, Yara. I wonder if we could just have a clause in the O&M plan that indicates that while this is like a contract summary, right, of what VHB will do for this particular project, if there could be a clause in the O&M plan that indicates that this work will continue beyond the length of the contract, as it is an in perpetuity condition. So, or perhaps it would be something like, the O&M plan for this project is, 3 site evaluations. And then, for the first 5 years, we've contracted with VHB. I don't know if this.
But the way the CFC is written now, it doesn't have, it doesn't have a forever date on it, right?
It does. Well, not a date, but
it says 5 years.
It's in perpetuity.
The way the O&M plan is written. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is that the way it's written now?
Yeah. This
It
is
goes till 2029.
Right. But then when we gave the order conditions, we said it goes on forever.
right. This is what the O&M. This is what the order of conditions.
So does the CNC, what does the CFC say that we would sign? Does that say that it goes on forever or it goes 5 years? We haven't
written the
we haven't written,
yet.
okay.
Yeah.
But we'd want an O&M plan that reflects the in perpetuity order of condition.
Right. And the order even specifically says this condition with 71. I mean, all of them, I guess, actually. Every single condition in the in perpetuity section on the order of conditions says that there'll be a continuing condition in perpetuity. So I think we can assume that the commission will follow that through.
Yeah, we need to do that then.
Is this making sense, Yara? I don't think the commission's not saying you need to have a contractor lined up in perpetuity, but the commission is looking for an O&M plan, and please, let me know if I'm speaking correctly. The commission is looking for an O&M plan that reflects the in perpetuity conditions of the order.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. I will definitely bring this back to our O&M partner and see if we can add an amendment on the current O&M contract to add the language that they will perpetually manage a subcontractor to monitor the invasive species.
And the other piece is just what they're going to use to treat the invasive species with. Is that correct? Is there anything else that we need from them at this point?
No, and I don't think you need to change the contract, just the O&M plan that will go from contractor to contractor to contractor.
Yeah. To add that language, we definitely work on a O&M amendment for that because we already have our contract outlined. So everything needs to change in the contract is going to be an O&M amendment. But that we'll discuss with our O&M partner.
Okay.
And then
in case sorry, Howard, continue.
Yeah, do you guys also need the module washing? Because I think you guys have the question for it as well.
what I understood is that the concern is basically what we will be using to clean, but we're not gonna clean them. So that means we're not using anything to clean them.
So,
Right.
so let's not have that be something that we have to have information on.
Okay, sounds good. I just want to get all your guys' questions answered before the next meeting, so we
That's
don't have
correct.
to like go back and forth.
I agree. So do you think you could have that information by the next meeting, which is February 24th?
Should be, yeah.
Howard, the commission could also extend it one more meeting if that would be helpful, or further.
What's the next meeting after the 24th?
March 10th.
Yeah, I think let's aim for March.
Yeah.
I was wondering what the lifespan of those solar panels are, and because I understand that solar panels are toxic waste after they're no good anymore.
Which is really pisses out of the
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
no, right. So I think that's, something that's not in our jurisdictional purview.
It's a good question.
It's a good question, but it's something that we can't hold them to.
So could I ask about the replication area? Is that,
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought the replication area was done, but go ahead if you have.
okay, so the last on-site report, July 2024. It said that 21 bushes were planted, 7 dogwood, 7 high bush blueberries, 7 winterberries, and only 2 of the winterberries survived out of the 21. Can we ask to have more plantings? I don't know if there was a growing season implementation with the replication area, or if this is something we can or can't ask for.
I think what I remember. Oh, you want them to talk?
Oh, no, I'm just saying it's that, which we have on the screen there.
I think when Cassie was here and we talked about it back in July, she said that there were some of the trees didn't survive, but that she thought that it was very well vegetated. And she didn't necessarily think that we needed to have them replanted.
That's why I kind of checked that off, that it was okay, but if you remember something different, then that's.
Oh, no, I'm just reading what it says, that 21 were planted, only 2 survived.
There isn't a requirement though for the survival of a certain number. It's a percent of wetland vegetation that have,
that was my
so it's that 75% wetland vegetation cover that is the requirement for.
Yeah, I kind of had that checked off that we were okay with the replication area, so that was.
Yeah.
I do remember there was things that didn't survive.
Mhm. And I didn't know, do we need another site visit, or since it's been a while, or no?
Do we need to verify the mowing of them? Or you think Diane already took care of it?
I think Diane, whether or not it's kind of it's the in perpetuity condition.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we have to look at it now as long as it's happening going forward.
Mhm.
And we're not going to see anything for, a few months here.
Right. So. Did you
Yeah, questions?
I did have one more
Okay,
question,
go for it.
and it's only because this project started before most of us were on the commission. So within the original order of conditions, under C5, it speaks about the 6-inch gap for the fencing. And I looked over the notes, I looked at the diagrams. There's no reference to the 6-inch gap for fencing. So now it's been 7 years, but I was wondering if you could let us know if there was the 6-inch gap in the order of conditions. And if you had provided that when you built the fence, it was for wildlife passage.
You have any photos of that?
I only saw the diagrams,
Sure.
but there was nothing that stated they were putting in the 6-inch gap. And if it's in the order of conditions, how do we approve certificate of compliance? And at the same time, it's been 7 years. So I don't know. So I was just hoping someone on the staff could tell me if that was implemented.
This isn't the fence that goes around the panel.
The
Yes,
fence that goes around the whole
Yeah.
complex,
Mhm.
correct?
yes.
One photo that I just saw go by does not have a gap underneath.
Can you refer me to the specific condition that it's under?
So, I just have written down C, letter C, in 5. So it says, under C. It's in the order of conditions. Not in the,
Yeah.
For this question, I'll have to get back to you because the site was filled before I joined Soltage. And personally, I have never been to the site myself, and I will have to look into the silver drawing and also the author on the site. I'm not sure that was provided to you guys. But if I can find the silver drawing and confirm if those is 6 inches fence area gap, that was on the drawings, and I'll get back to you guys. But
All right.
in terms of now, I don't have a answer.
yeah, thank you.
It doesn't, it wouldn't show.
It should. Order conditions recorded.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
It's under C, and then I think it says 1, 2, 3. And then it's the Roman numerals. So it's letter C, Roman numeral 5.
Letter C, Roman numeral 5, like it's
Yes.
attachment C.
Yes,
Okay,
So
here, I'll pull it up.
What was it called? A 6-inch gap? A 6-inch?
6-inch. It's a gap
I'm not
Yeah,
looking
for
at my-
wildlife passage.
Here it's, I mean, attachment C is this one, the stormwater management permit, which is, it's not in here. I wouldn't expect it to be in here.
What's under?
No, it's
6?
under the order of conditions.
Okay. So this is the order, but this is attachment B.
It was on the ongoing projects, documents that it had the plans and the order conditions were in there. Yes, there you go.
This should be the same order. What we were just looking at.
Here we are. It's under letter L of the access from maintenance.
Both of them.
Under, say that again, sorry.
It's under
It's a,
general
one of the
condition
drawings.
CL L as in Larry, and it says access for maintenance, repair, and or replacement of BMP shall not be withheld. Any fencing constructed around the stormwater BMPs shall include access gates and shall be at least 6 inches above grade to allow for wildlife passage.
Okay, so it's specifically around the stormwater features. I'm sorry, I'm still missing the C.
No, I have that. I read it and it's really see.
I don't even know if I'm looking at what is you. So many.
There's a lot of, but, oh, I see.
Order
Okay.
conditions C.
Oh,
and then
under
it's
G. Oh,
letter
it's the
L.
general one. Okay.
Yeah. Where you were.
It's higher.
You're going too fast.
I think it's high. I think it's within the actual physical
Right, so
order.
where's
right
C
here.
in here?
Yes, okay, I
Yes,
see.
I see
It's
it now.
letter L.
Yeah, letter L.
I understand. So under the general conditions. Okay, so these aren't even ones that the commission
it's on page-
specifically wrote.
It's on
These are the
page 9.
general,
Yeah, it's on page
Okay.
9.
And it's only on
conditions.
the stormwater.
And I believe it's probably, let's look at these. Let's look at this section.
There you go. These are the Roman ones.
Photo of the fence that I saw was not a stormwater fence. It was just a perimeter fence. So it was not.
Right. Is there fencing around any of the stormwater features? I have not been on to the
Like the
site.
basin?
Yeah. I imagine that was more a piece of, I imagine that was a construction condition
Maybe.
more than it is a post-construction condition. But I'm not sure. I think it would still be relevant if there were still fencing around stormwater features.
I don't believe there's fencing around the stormwater features. I believe there's just fencing around the panel areas, but I could be incorrect.
My guess is that this is no longer relevant.
I don't recall fencing around the stormwater features.
I mean, what would be the point of a condition? This like wildlife passage. Do we want the wildlife to be able to go under the panels?
Yes. You want them to go under the fence so they have an escape route.
But if the fence keeps them from ever getting in there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kimberly DeGutis. I'm the Senior Lead Environmental Scientist at WSP, and I'm the overseeing ecologist on this project. I have 27 years of experience permitting, so I'd like to be able to shed a little bit of insight into the condition that you're discussing. These are typically noted as turtle gaps, so it's not the entire fence is raised 6 inches. There are gaps at irregular intervals underneath the fence to allow for the wildlife passage to come and go, so they're not trapped on either side. Fencing is typically provided to keep people out. And not the critters themselves. I hope that's helpful information.
Well,
Thank you.
Are there gaps anywhere?
Is there, I guess the question, right, remains.
Sure. I too am new to WSP. I was not here when the site was constructed, but typically a site walk is taken by the agent and by a member of the Conservation Commission to apply for the COC, for the request for the COC. Did that site walk occur, and did anyone take note of the gaps underneath the fence as part of that site walk to close out this permit?
So the site walk occurred like 7 months ago with the previous agent, which is why the
Okay.
commission is struggling to
And did not.
have
make
all the
note of
information.
gaps.
Did not take notes?
Did not make note of the gaps.
Oh, man. Okay.
But this is not a stormwater, this isn't a stormwater
This
fence,
is-
right? This is the fence to get into the site.
Yeah,
We'll see if, I mean, these are Cassie's photos. Let's see if we can get anywhere with them.
but it does let turtles get turtles or other wildlife get out if they get behind where the panels are. That'd be a long walk to pay for a turtle. I mean, we could do another site visit.
We could. I can do another set. I mean, unlike vegetation, I can go check if there's gaps under the fences
Well, you won't be able to tell right now.
with the snow.
Bring a shovel.
Well, but by the time the next meeting before March 10th, we may have some melting.
Push it off.
We may have more snow too, right?
Also, to address the questions that came up before in regards to the kinds of herbicide and the questions in regards to, sounds like you have a lot of subcontractors on the project. Finding Massachusetts licensed herbicide applicators is pretty difficult. There are not that many companies that service them. So typically what happens is that the client will subcontract out the monitoring, and then somebody else that is licensed to apply the herbicide comes in following an invasive species management plan. The kinds of herbicides, they can use either a generic version of glyphosate, which I know that people don't love, but in the manner in which it's applied, it's typically not broadcast spraying. They can use something like a paintbrush or a roller so that it is very directly applied, or something called imazapyr, which is another version of glyphosate. The kinds of herbicide that they would be using is species dependent and application dependent. So we can't just say, we're going to limit our applicators to these kinds of, they can only use Roundup, right? That we would not be able to say that, because if a species comes onto the site or is introduced to the site 5 years from now, and it is not, it already is resistant to something like Roundup, we would not be able to use a different and more effective herbicide to treat and keep those populations at bay. Things like cattails, sometimes cattails, there's a native version of cattails, but they can be rather weedy. And so in some wetland replication sites, we don't like to see lots of cattails. So instead of applying glyphosate, what we can do is remove them by hand, come in when the seed heads come in, cut them off, bag the seed heads, and let them naturally die back. That is one of the treatment methods. It's just, again, species specific and time of year specific.
Thank you. So does the commission want, with that new information, do we want to not look for a specific set of herbicides?
Well, the in perpetuity condition that we're looking for the O&M plan to reflect says pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and fertilizers shall not be used within the 100-foot buffer zone. Organic pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and fertilizers may be used subject to the review and approval of the commission. This shall be noted in the certificate of compliance and shall be an ongoing condition. So how that jives with what you just shared, I'm not sure how to make those two things add up, because things like glyphosate are not organic. So I don't know if we need to change our in perpetuity order of conditions.
I think that's
right now, that's what it says.
Right.
Your concerns are valid. However, we've found that working with the guys that apply the stuff, if one season they see that there's a lot of multiflora rose and the organic version of glyphosate, now I don't have the list in front of me, I apologize. And if that's not working to keep that population down, they may transition to something else. So we try not to limit them in the kinds of materials that they can use to keep the populations down. If the requirement is submit a copy of the MSDS to show the kind of herbicide that's proposed to be used on the site pursuant to the commission's approval, I think that allows for you to approve, deny what's going to be used on the site, quote unquote, in perpetuity, without limiting the herbicide applicator to a specific set of herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, that sort of thing. And the science is evolving a lot. So in 2-3 years, they might have an entire new suite of tools available to treat and manage invasive species on the property.
Well, the condition doesn't specify a brand or a name. But
Right, and I think this came up with the co-op, right? And we did review herbicides.
yeah,
When they were proposed. So should we change the request here? So the first request is that we want that the commission would like the O&M plan to reflect the in perpetuity condition provided by
Correct.
the order.
Yeah.
And the second piece would be to communicate with the commission prior to herbicide treatment about the safety sheet and the type of herbicide that will be used.
in perpetuity. Want me to ask them to do that?
Ask for notification prior to herbicide treatment with the herbicide.
Or do we just want a list of the ones that are possibly used just to say the whole group is okay or not okay? I'm trying to make it easier to move forward with this, but
I mean, we could ask that they come before the commission if they use a non-organic one, or we could ask that the least harmful to wildlife type be used. Whatever.
I would make a request that personal and in-person appearance not be a requirement that gets pretty onerous after a while and pretty harsh on the applicants. If there could be a digital submission pursuant to review and approval by the commission, I think that would be in everybody's best interest.
yeah, I think that's acceptable.
Okay, so I'll put this in writing and send it off to your team after the commission's meeting, but just to say for the record, the commission will be requesting an updated O&M plan to reflect the in perpetuity conditions required for continual monitoring of invasives and invasive treatment subject to, notification and approval of the commission via email prior to herbicide treatment. Is that what the commission?
I believe so, yes.
Does that make sense to the broader team on the call?
Absolutely.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Would it be helpful to send an email that copies that condition so that
Yeah. I'll send a attachment of the in perpetuity conditions, but I do think it is something for the commission to think about moving forward next time we permit a big
Sure.
project like this. What we want in the in perpetuity conditions with regards to pesticides, herbicides,
etc. Fertilizer.
fertilizer, but really, pesticides, herbicides, particularly with regards to invasive species monitoring and management within the 100%.
All right.
But that's
Sure.
moving forward.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
All right, so then I think we're looking for a motion to continue this to March 10th at 6 p.m.
Motion to continue to March 10th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You pick who's second. It's a tie. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Yes, thanks, everybody.
Thanks for the whole team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Right.
Did we decide another site visit with me? No.
Yeah, I'll go take a look at the fences before March 10th.
Just to correct what I was saying, it was under the 2018 order of conditions. That's why I looked up.
Sure.
So that's where I had the C Roman
Yeah,
numeral
no,
5.
that's fine. No, that's fine. No, we ran
Figured
it
it
down
out.
eventually. Catch up.
Okay. It's hard when we haven't been there, it's been a really long time.
Right. Yeah, it's been dragging out.
Okay.
All right, enforcement actions.
No updates. We, B&D, we know that we're waiting on till the growing season.
Yep.
No updates on C. No updates on A. Open space updates. I did go ahead and look into, Commissioner Busa asked me to look into cut stem treatments in the winter. It seems like the current thinking is that it does work.
It does work, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
really?
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Here, ready? Did you find different things, Commissioner Orr?
Well, I did look it up myself and I didn't find anything that said you should be doing it in the winter.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense the way the plant is
Winter
pulling the
invasive
material
plant.
into its root system. Doesn't
Right.
seem like that's the time, but
This is what Penn State Extension has to say about it.
What's their winter like?
Pennsylvania is in our rough zone. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I would think it would get washed off before it got absorbed. but- Right.
is that in? Where's that located? Do you have that
yeah, it's attached
attached? to
in the ongoing project updates. And a reminder that this is the like pro bono. This is like
Sure,
like
no,
we're trying to get back on
no,
track.
we understand that. So that's why we didn't want to waste this time if we didn't feel like it's gonna work. But okay, so if we click on winter, we'll see that.
Yep.
Document. Okay, great.
Good sleuthing.
Yeah.
Okay, no updates on B. Borkowski parcel. I think I'll say this update for Commissioner Buttrick because he was the one who had the questions
Okay,
about
sure.
access on that parcel. That has been quite the rabbit hole of my last 2 weeks.
He's more familiar with the parcel than any of us put together.
Totally.
Yes.
Can tell you that in looking into ownership of the Rocky parcel, I've contacted every former city planner of the town of Easthampton from 1982 till
They must like
present.
you.
It's great. They're all around still, which is really fun.
Wow.
So,
And you discovered there's only access for a rabbit to operate.
okay. So stay tuned for that update.
All right.
All right. And then I have very little on active projects.
So compliance updates.
Sometimes updates, very, I think actually nothing.
It's all right.
Can I ask a question about Tasty Top?
Yep, we can talk about TikTok.
Just quickly, was that ever finalized in terms of a construction monitor?
We have not received the funds to be held in escrow, so there has been no progress with that.
Okay. So if they don't have a construction monitor, they're not able to start construction, is that?
They are not able to start construction. We also have not done the pre-construction site visit. So
Okay.
there's a,
Because yep, sure. Yeah, I had this a moment ago. Their approval from the planning board expired in November.
Guess I'll have to start up.
what does that mean for a planning board? Do they have to, I can follow up on that and see how the boards interact with this. How planning board and Concom.
But they have not expired with us.
No, but my point is that they don't have anymore a comprehensive permit.
I said, okay.
If they've not started work before the end of the comprehensive permit, then they don't have one. Not been extended, as best as I can tell from the website. And therefore, I think they need to start over with a new comprehensive permit.
Yeah, we wouldn't be involved in that piece of the puzzle. So
My big question was, if they don't yet have a construction monitor, they shouldn't have started anything. So
I assume
They have
yes,
not.
if we haven't had our meeting with them, or we've selected some to do peer management, but they have not paid the check for that. The escrow.
Right. So their pre-construction conditions have not been met.
okay, that's the big thing that I wanted from you guys. I knew the other stuff was not within your
Okay,
purview,
no problem.
but
Did that 2-year extension of permits apply to them or something? Because
The state permit piece, I don't know. I don't know.
Don't really know.
like construction in general.
Okay, I don't have any other I don't have any other active project updates.
Okay.
Do you have 2 sets of minutes? Commissioner August made some edits that were like grammatical edits. Primarily.
I read what you sent.
Me too.
Though Commissioner Laura is not votable at the time of these minutes, you can vote on them. Even if you weren't present on a meeting, you can read the minutes.
I think I was here for the
Yeah,
last.
you were here for that.
But I wasn't doing any votes.
No, but
Yeah.
as far as like, even if you weren't present for a meeting, you can vote to approve the minutes if you've read the minutes. So just for
Great.
your future reference, because we all had to learn that. All right, so under general business, meeting minutes from January 13th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th?
Motion to approve January 13th, 2025 minutes with Commissioner August's corrections.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And then we have the minutes from January 27th also. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from January 27th, excuse me?
I'll move that we accept the minutes of January 27th with Commissioner August's edits.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great.
Can I be motion or a second if I,
Well, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying.
Everyone has looked at what you've done to approve it, so yeah, there should be no issue with that. You're always correcting our grammar, aren't you?
My grammar.
I'm
Really my
not
grammar.
putting on anybody.
And she catches when I spell people's names wrong.
That's
what's
good.
really
That's probably more
really
important than some things.
All right, the ordinance is coming along. The
Right.
planning director has it right now. She's reviewing it. And then it'll come to you all soon.
The planning director,
Yeah, my supervisor, the planning director.
Yeah.
is that
Allison?
Diane?
That's Allison.
Oh.
Were you at the meeting when she introduced herself?
No.
Okay. She didn't come and say hello. Maybe briefly before the meeting started. Okay, and then the only other general business update I have for you is we got a Wetlands Protection Act exempt notification. We get these every time. Does the commission likes to see these, right?
We just like to know what's happening, so, but usually this has to do with them doing work in a particular area and they're exempt, right?
Yep.
So what is
So,
doing tree
yes.
removal or?
Eversource is doing maintenance work to replace a natural gas
Okay,
line.
all right.
So,
Where is it?
it is under East Green Street,
East Green Street. Okay.
and then also maybe Chestnut Street, Spring Street, and Elliott Street.
Oh, where's East
So you can go look.
If you go up, Holyoke Street is 141 and going to Mount Tom. It's that stretch in East Green, goes off of that about a quarter mile up from downtown.
Here we are. This is East Green Street right here. So there's Nashwanek, there's the mountain. Here's 141, like Commissioner Weeks described. So it looks like they're gonna do a trench repair up the road, fix the pipe. Good idea.
But it's all exempt activity, so, but we just like to know what's going on, because then someone calls us and say, hey, somebody's digging somewhere, and then at least we know that it's an exempt.
Totally. And that happened just the other day, that actually I got a call from Williston. They were concerned about some mowing that was happening
Okay.
in their buffer zone, and that was one of these exempt activities
Okay.
under utilities. Maintenance.
All right, anything else exciting? Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn until what's the next meeting?
24th?
Yeah, the 24th at 6 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Nice. Motion carries.
Awesome.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.